It's Easter Monday, and the holiday is tainted with mourning. At the Vatican City, and indeed across the globe, the papacy holds both spiritual significance and global attention. When the man at its helm passes on, the world takes notice of what it means for the Church and beyond. The head of the Catholic Church and sovereign of the Vatican City, Pope Francis, has died at the age of 88. The Vatican confirmed his passing after battling with a severe case of pneumonia. Pope Francis became the first Latin American pope in 2013 and the oldest pope in history. Of all things, Pope Francis will be remembered by Christians for being a beacon of compassion, humility, and spiritual courage. Now let's share an update on his passing with you.
Born on the 17th of December 1936 in Buenos Aires, Argentina, Jorge Mario Bergoglio would go on to change the course of the Roman Catholic Church. In 2013, he made history, the first pope from the Western Hemisphere, the first from South America, and the first member of the Jesuit order to ascend to the papacy. He chose the name Francis, a nod to Saint Francis of Assisi, the humble saint known for his care for the poor and the planet. His leadership brought sweeping reforms and a renewed spirit of inclusion. His 2015 encyclical Laudato Si, Praise Be to You, called the world to action against climate change, marking a historic shift in the Church's role in global stewardship. He championed unity across faith and extended unprecedented apologies to survivors of clergy sexual abuse, calling for justice, healing, and accountability. The son of Italian immigrant, he once studied to become a chemical technician and briefly worked in food processing. But at 21, a near-fatal bout of pneumonia altered his path, and perhaps his purpose. He entered the Jesuit novitiate in 1958. By 1969, he was ordained a priest, and just 4 years later, he became the head of the Jesuit province in Argentina. By 1992, he was appointed Auxiliary Bishop of Buenos Aires, then Archbishop. In 2001, he was named a cardinal. He was quiet, humble, but deeply principled. When Pope Benedict XVI resigned in 2013, the Church turned to him. On the fifth ballot of the conclave, he was chosen, and the world met Pope Francis. He was the people's pope, a pastor of the poor, a reformer, and a bridge builder. On Easter Monday, Pope Francis died at the age of 88. His legacy, however, lives on in the heart of millions, and in the Church, he helped reshape for a new generation. Pope Francis, a pope of first, a pope of faith, a pope who dared to lead differently.
He was the first Roman Catholic pontiff from Latin America. But talk to me, what will he be remembered for, in the Christian community?
Yes, I think the most significant legacy that he left has to do with his liberal reforms, especially on the issue of same-sex marriage, same-sex relationships and all that. There are many people who are not happy with him on account of that. They felt that for an institution as conservative as the Catholic Church, that it brought far too many changes. Himself and the Pope who was before him, who later
Pope Benedict
decided to step aside on health grounds. They brought so many sweeping changes, and many people are already thinking that in coming into the conclave, they may decide to elect somebody very conservative this time. Probably one cardinal of European origin, who would try to redress some of the reforms, the sweeping reforms that Pope Francis brought about, especially issues around same-sex marriage, which really caused so much problems within the church. So much control, so many problems. So I believe that I'm eagerly waiting for the election of a new pope to see how the conservatives among the cardinals, how they react, and the kind of person that they will choose, because so many of them did not really like the kind of ideas that Pope Francis promoted and instituted in the real sense of the word. So, and I also think that Africa is due for
exactly my thoughts.
The world is due for
an African pope,
and perhaps an African pope will also come up with the idea of polygamy, which will be in tune with African values.
Thank you.
Who knows? No, well, it may well happen. May well happen. So, it's Pope Francis. No doubt, very religious, and he got into the job very early. You know, he joined the seminary as early as 1969, and he was quite young when he decided to settle for God's work.
Exactly.
You know,
exactly.
As a 13-year-old, he already knew that this was where
this is where they
going.
Exactly.
You know? So I can only pray that his soul rests in perfect peace. In
perfect peace. All right, Deacon Yusuf, because all day we've been seeing all sort of reactions. People have been also comments on social media saying very beautiful things about the Pope. But your thoughts on this?
You know, he was a phenomenal, religious leader. When you even look at the way he died yesterday, he was still performing his,
exactly,
and this morning, gone
peacefully.
And I remember in the newsroom yesterday, we are discussing how do we get the, photograph of this man to, and shortly after we were able to get that, and we saw the video, how he did, the ride, waving at, and the wide jubilations and all of that. Then hours later, gone. So that's enough to, make
just
people to
the official goodbye, and just like
so
that.
So when he was waving yesterday, he knew he didn't know that he was saying bye bye. So, but he actually did well. When you remember him, he was a very strong voice for social justice.
Sure.
He was there for the poor. He was always making a case for the poor.
And that's very, very key.
The immigrants, the migrants, let me put it that way. He was always fighting for their, for their case. When you talk about environmentalism, he was always there. So then, Jide was talking about the sweeping reforms. Yes, he touched on a lot of very many controversial issues. When you talk about abuses, especially sexual harassment and abuse in the church, he did a lot to address that. There is this aspect that made him a bit, controversial, which was about, trying to bring transparency, more accountability into the operations of the Catholic Church. And, he tried a lot in those areas. But there are also controversies, especially about the LGBT, thing. Many people didn't like that today.
Yeah, that's a very, very
because it's like what is the role of, you know, what the Catholic Church about that. Then he also tried look at this his position on women, position in the church. You know, that was also very controversial.
All right, then.
He was saying like because the women are to do this and not. You know, at a time when people are talking about trying to bring women on board and all of that. So you did a lot, but